Hello, how are you? This is Lee Gerstmann. I'm going to be doing a talk. I heard an album by a guy who I had not heard of, but on one of the services where I listen to music, his new album was suggested to me. I didn't like the cover. I thought this won't appeal to me, but then I decided, why judge a book by its cover? There might be a reason why this album was suggested to me, so I heard it. And the artist is Bryan. And I had not heard of him before. Maybe I might have, but I hadn't heard of him before. From what I remember, it was like a completely new thing. I noticed, though, that there were guest stars on his album who I have heard of. And I heard the album, and it's the type of music that I listen to. It's well performed, the work is tasteful, the music is consistent, the words are fine. It's the type of album that will probably get a lot of listeners who are into it. The only problem is I don't like any of the songs. With that being said, it's not the very, very worst album that I've ever heard. At least I was able to get through it. But all the songs are ballads. All the songs have a somewhat similar melodic edge. And I have not heard any of his prior work. I looked him up during the listening of this album, which is his new one called Bryan. And so, okay. He's the kind of artist who I probably should like. But the thing is, I don't like those type of ballady, somewhat sad, heart on your sleeve songs. A lot of people do. And if you're into that type of music, if, let's say, you hear the first couple of songs and you love them, hey, this is going to be your thing. The one song that I would say is okay, kind of, is the first one, which is a poem like called, I think, Fear and Fridays, something like that. It's like an acoustic intro with him doing a poem over it. I thought it was a weird way to start the album. Not what I would think is an ordinary way to start it. But it was at least not as disinteresting as the rest of the songs. The rest of the songs were pretty much like, do you know those albums where you like most everything on it and there's one or two songs that you don't care for, but you can get through them because the rest of the album is so good that you kind of let them pass? Imagine an album of only those songs on it. That's what it was. On a scale of 1 to 10, as far as competency. Competency as far as the musicianship is concerned, and at least trying their best to make the album sound as good as it can, I'll give that an 8 out of 10. The songs themselves I'll give, except for that one beginning poem thing, which I'll give a 2, they all get a 0 out of 10. My overall score is a 1 out of 10 because at least it didn't make me sick. I'm not going to talk about the individual songs themselves, except for how I mentioned the poem Fear and Fridays, which later was a song, and the song version was not any better. In fact, the poem version, in my opinion, was better. But yeah, this is an example of the type of songwriting that's around now. Zach Bryan is working in the country and folk genre, which is a genre that I do like. So I understand how the service that I heard this album on would suggest it. They did a good job as far as the type of stuff I would like. But let's say you like beans and rice, but you like them a little spicy, and this time they're not cooked in the way that you would like them to be cooked, and they don't taste very well, but they're still rice and beans. To that extent, the chef got it right as far as assuming you like rice and beans, but the chef didn't get it right as far as the flavor or the way they're prepared. I would say the way the music was prepared, that was okay, but the flavor was bunk. So please, if you're someone who likes Zach Bryan's album, his new one, I don't need you to give me any kind of comment on it. I don't want to know your opinion on other albums because chances are I won't like anything that you suggest. All I can say is I strongly do not suggest this album for people who like good music. I'll suggest it if you have a grandma who's suffering from some type of traumatic stress and screams and yells and needs calming music to go to sleep. You can play this for her and she will probably fall asleep and the music will serve a purpose. But other than that, unless you're the type of person who likes this type of music, and thankfully I don't really know many people in that category, I would say avoid it. Is it better than Kiss's Great Expectations? Well, imagine a whole album of Kiss's Great Expectations. That's how this is. Well, no. That's a little too cruel. It's like a whole album of Beth. Beth is okay. I mean, I don't like it at all. But it's not as bad as Great Expectations. At least Beth is... It's not a good song. It's a syrupy ballad that I don't like. But since most of the rest of Destroyer is not like that song, it's a somewhat better album for it. But imagine a Kiss album where all of the songs are like Beth. That's how this album was. So if that's your thing, stay away from me. Okay. Bye.